In the north, in the town, my own children have grown.
Let's think of the future, forget the past.
Hello, good old friends. Welcome back. It's great to see you here again. Throughout more than 6 decades in music, Bob Dylan has remained one of the most enigmatic figures in popular culture. He could charm the press one day and eviscerate the entire industry in song the next. Rarely did he speak openly of disliking other artists, but scattered interviews, passing remarks, and lyrical clues suggest that Dylan has harbored strong opinions about certain musicians, some of whom were among the biggest names of his generation. Here are 5 artists who seem to rub Bob Dylan hated. Check this out. Number 5, Donovan.
You know, and he did the talking part. We go dancing nightly in the attic. He had so much fun doing that song. And then I said, now you got to sing it, and I'll do the talking, you know.
A young troubadour named Donovan Leitch appeared in Britain, armed with an acoustic guitar and poetic charm. Within months, the press began calling him the British Bob Dylan. That comparison may have helped Donovan's career, but it irritated Dylan deeply. Their awkward encounter was captured in the 1967 documentary Don't Look Back. Donovan visited Dylan's London hotel room in awe, only to be quietly humiliated when Dylan performed It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, with an unmistakable tone of superiority. It was less a friendly jam and more a subtle declaration of dominance. Although they later expressed mutual respect, Dylan never liked the idea of being copied or cast as a template. To him, imitation was not flattery, it was artistic laziness. Dylan valued originality above everything, and Donovan, fairly or unfairly, became a symbol of the media's obsession with manufacturing the next Dylan. Number 4, Elvis Presley.
Through that door, baby, be polite.
Few figures loom larger in Dylan's imagination than Elvis Presley. As a teenager in Hibbing, Minnesota, he used to imitate Elvis on stage, believing him to be the embodiment of rebellion and freedom. But by the 1970s, Dylan's admiration had turned to frustration. He felt that Elvis had lost touch with the raw spirit that made him revolutionary in the first place. The Las Vegas years, in Dylan's view, represented everything wrong with stardom: showmanship without substance, rebellion tamed by money. He once remarked that the man who had once shaken the world now seemed trapped by the very system he once defied. Still, Dylan never stopped acknowledging Elvis's impact. He often covered Elvis songs live and called him one of his greatest influences. His disappointment was not born of contempt, but of heartbreak seeing a hero surrender to the machinery of fame. Number 3, Eric Clapton. Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton respected each other deeply, yet their artistic philosophies could not have been more different. Clapton was a perfectionist, a guitarist obsessed with tone and precision. Dylan, on the other hand, cared little for technical mastery. He believed music should sound alive, spontaneous, and even flawed. In a few interviews, Dylan hinted that some musicians focus too much on their instruments and not enough on their emotions. Though he never named names, fans suspected he was referring to virtuosos like Clapton. The bluesman once commented that Dylan didn't seem to care whether he sang out of tune, which only confirmed their contrasting ideals. There was no personal animosity, but Dylan distrusted what he saw as the sterilizing effect of professionalism. For him, imperfection was honesty, while technical polish risked turning music into something lifeless. Their mutual admiration was real, but their worlds were separated by philosophy. Number 2, Bruce Springsteen. When Bruce Springsteen exploded onto the scene in the 1970s, critics wasted no time dubbing him the new Dylan. It was meant as a compliment, but Dylan hated such comparisons. To him, there was no new Dylan, because being Dylan wasn't a style, it was an existential burden. Springsteen adored Dylan and often said that his songwriting changed his life. Yet the constant media framing of their relationship as one of succession made Dylan uneasy. He never wanted to be anyone's yardstick. In his eyes, artists should define themselves, not be measured against the ghosts of others. Dylan once implied that being himself was already hard enough without having to compete with imitators. He appreciated Springsteen's passion, but refused to engage in the narrative of mentorship or rivalry. The respect between them was genuine, but the emotional distance remained. Number 1. The Beatles. Before becoming close allies, Bob Dylan and the Beatles existed on opposite sides of the cultural spectrum. In the early 1960s, Dylan thought their music was too clean, too simple, and too romantic to carry any real weight. He viewed them as a pop phenomenon rather than artists with something to say. But everything changed with Rubber Soul, 1965. That record revealed a new depth in the Beatles' songwriting, a shift many historians attribute to Dylan's influence. He had introduced them to introspective lyrics, and as legend has it, to marijuana as well. Despite the eventual friendship, Dylan remained uneasy about how their fame transformed the music industry into a race for popularity. For him, music was supposed to be an act of expression, not a commercial competition. He could appreciate their art, but he never envied the circus surrounding it. It should be noted that Bob Dylan's apparent dislikes were rarely personal. They stem from his unwavering belief in authenticity, risk, and the refusal to compromise. He could love someone's music and still reject what they later became. To Dylan, the worst sin in art was dishonesty, pretending to feel something just to please the audience. That's why his occasional disdain carried weight. It wasn't about ego, but integrity. Every artist on this list represented, at some point, a reflection of what Dylan feared music could become commercial, imitative, or over-refined. And yet, through all the friction, his criticism only reinforced his own legend as the uncompromising conscience of popular music. Even in silence, Dylan's judgments echoed louder than most artists' words. He didn't need to shout to make a point. He simply kept writing, and the world kept listening.